Get off my property right now. That's what Mary Pierce screamed at me like I was some career criminal who'd broken into my own inherited cabin when really all I wanted was a fresh start. 3 black SUVs were blocking the gravel drive, cutting off my only escape route. And let me tell you, after everything I lost in my divorce, this place, this quiet patch of woods, was the last real thing I had left. But Mary, she strutted up like she owned not just the neighborhood, but me too, waving some HOA folder around like it was the 10 Commandments already writing me off as trash. You ever have a day where you feel like the joke is on everyone else except they haven't figured it out yet? Because what Mary didn't know was I was about to uncover something that had flipped her whole empire upside down, and the meltdown she had when the truth came out, well, let's just say it was one for the ages. And hey, drop a comment if you've ever wanted to see a Karen finally get what's coming. Now, Mary Pierce pictures someone who's maybe 5'2" on a tall day, looking like she just stormed out of a corporate boardroom. But instead of a PowerPoint, she's armed with a stack of HOA violations. She wags those papers in my face. These documents clearly outline the community liability issues with deceased property owners. She announces in this voice that's just dripping with rehearsed authority, like she's spent hours practicing in front of her mirror. You need legal verification of your inheritance rights before you can occupy this residence, and there are several covenant violations that must be addressed immediately. She made me feel like I was squatting in my own family's cabin, not a guy just trying to pick up the pieces. That's when Rebecca Shaw walked up, and right away I should have trusted my gut because her practiced smile just didn't reach her eyes. She shakes my hand all warmth, and I'm an estate planning specialist. I helped your uncle with his final arrangements. Then with this subtle little head tilt, she drops, "Such a wonderful man, though I was concerned about his adjustment to living alone in his final months. Felt less like a condolence and more like a medical diagnosis." Next thing I know, she's asking all these concerned questions. How was I handling my divorce? Was I working full-time? Did I have any family to lean on? It was like she was filling out a psychological intake form, not making small talk. And behind her, here comes Kevin Torres, built like a brick wall, hair clipped short, eyes always scanning the tree line, definitely military. "I'm handling community security," he says, trying to square his shoulders. Marine veteran currently between positions, fully committed to keeping this place safe. But the way he kept glancing at Mary told me everything. He wasn't in charge of anything, just another pawn, desperate for approval. An hour later, after the welcome committee finally left, old Frank Morrison from next door shuffles over, looking like he hasn't slept in a week. "I failed your uncle," he says, voice thick with regret. "Jim kept warning me something was off about Rebecca. She kept asking about property values, inheritance laws, always pushing to help with paperwork. I thought he was just lonely and getting paranoid. Maybe his mind was slipping." And man, the guilt in Frank's eyes, it hit me right in the chest. That night, digging through Uncle Jim's battered old desk, I found an envelope tucked deep in the back. My name written shaky and crooked. He must have known I'd need it. Reading that letter felt like Uncle Jim was right there in the room, his voice trying to warn me. "Charles, if you're reading this, I failed to protect what matters most. Rebecca Shaw has been planning something for 3 years. Don't trust anyone until you check the old survey documents in the basement. You'll understand why they want this land so badly." Let me tell you, you ever have that moment where your whole world just shifts, where you realize you've been playing checkers and everyone else has been playing chess? That's how I felt, holding that letter, suddenly realizing I'd walked into something way bigger than neighborly drama. Rebecca's questions, Mary's intimidation, none of it was random. Somewhere in that basement was a secret they were desperate for me not to find. Next morning, there's Rebecca on my porch again, casserole in hand, smile set on friendly neighbor, but eyes all calculation. "Moving is always stressful," she coos. I imagine the financial transition's been particularly hard, especially with the divorce and all those legal fees. like she'd read my bank statements. Every sentence was precision surgery pretending concern, but clearly confirming details she already knew. And over the next week, she visited every house on our street with cookies, bread, and 1,000 concerned questions about me. Was I working? Did I seem stable? Had I ever mentioned depression or anger? Turns out she'd even called my boss, pretending to run a routine character reference for new residents. My boss sat me down, looking half worried, half confused. Some woman from your new neighborhood called about community safety, wanted to know if you've had any emotional problems at work. Rebecca had set herself up as the guardian angel while quietly poisoning the well behind my back. Frank, bless him, finally started putting two and two together. He realized Rebecca's community concerns were all about property lines, inheritance, and how legally airtight Uncle Jim's will had been. When one of the neighbors finally confessed that Rebecca was spreading rumors about a restraining order from my divorce dismissed in 2 weeks, but still painting me as a possible threat, I knew I had to dig deeper. Back in that dusty desk, I found Uncle Jim's handwritten notes. He'd been documenting everything from the day Rebecca moved in right after his cancer diagnosis. Coincidence? She keeps asking about my family values, who inherits if I die. By the last page, 2 months before he passed, Jim had written, "She's done this before 3 other states, always after someone gets sick. She's not here to help, she's here to take." The real bombshell came when Frank brought over boxes Jim had asked him to keep. Inside logbooks, dates, times, direct quotes of every conversation with Rebecca. She'd been showing up during chemo, offering help, while hinting maybe his mind wasn't what it used to be. These meds can cloud your thinking. Maybe let me look over your will just in case. Over months, she convinced him his neighbors were all talking about his decline, that only she had his back. Textbook psychological isolation. Meanwhile, Kevin, loyal soldier, was being manipulated into running community security. But what he was really doing was gathering intelligence on everyone's financial stress routines, property maintenance, feeding it all back to Mary and Rebecca, who used it to squeeze the most vulnerable. Rebecca's next play. She starts running meetings with parents, warning them about the danger signs of recently divorced men: anger, desperation, unpredictability. By the end of the week, she'd convinced half the neighborhood I was a ticking time bomb. Mary took it official new HOA community protection protocols, all aimed at monitoring me. Suddenly, every incident, every home repair, every time I sneezed near a playground was being logged as a potential concern. That's when Frank and I finally cracked open the basement. What we found? Well, it was like stepping into a secret surveyor's lab. Uncle Jim had maps, pro-grade equipment, legal documents stored in waterproof cases. Turns out our property lines extended way further than anyone believed so far. In fact, that my land covered not just my cabin, but the community center, playground, mailbox, facility, and maintenance shed. All the stuff the HOA had been managing sitting on land that technically belonged to me. We brought in a surveyor, and when he confirmed it, showed us the records, the maps, I just about dropped my coffee. For 16 years, the HOA had built their precious facilities on my family's land without a single legal easement or rent agreement. All those dues and meetings, every neighborhood BBQ, all happened on my property. And when word got out, panic spread like wildfire. Parents realized their kids' playground was on land I could fence off tomorrow. Residents demanded to know why their HOA dues had gone to maintaining facilities they technically had no right to. Rebecca pivoted overnight. She started painting me as a greedy outsider, warning that I could ransom the whole community. Mary, meanwhile, whipped up emergency meetings uniting everyone against me. "This man could evict your children's playground tomorrow," she thundered, "and demand back rent for years." Overnight, the street turned colder than a Michigan winter. Doors shut, conversations died when I walked by. But what they didn't realize was, I finally understood the playbook. Rebecca and Mary had been running this con for years, targeting isolated property owners, using community paranoia as a weapon. The next morning, every neighbor avoided me, carpools rerouted so they didn't pass. My cabin store clerks quietly suggested I shop off-peak. Rebecca had even filed a false report with my professional licensing board, trying to sabotage my job. She contacted my ex-wife, spinning tales about my mental instability until my phone rang off the hook with worried calls. Kevin, once her loyal scout, finally saw through the manipulation when he found detailed files in Mary's office on every resident's vulnerabilities. He realized he'd been used. The truth blew wide open when Frank found digital recordings Uncle Jim had made Rebecca on tape, laying out her elderly targeting scam, even bragging about her $50,000 gambling debt and why she needed the next score. Then came Mary's personal binder maps, keys, detailed plans to drive out elderly owners through harassment, legal traps, and social isolation. When Frank and Kevin brought all this to a packed HOA meeting, Mary snapped full meltdown, screaming that everyone owed her, threatening to take half the neighborhood down if she went down. But there was no stopping it now. The community saw her for what she was. The police arrested Rebecca for fraud, elder abuse, and more. Mary was stripped of her power, facing lawsuits from everyone she'd hurt. Dr. Lena, Jim's hospice physician, cleared my name, said Jim was sharp to the end, his will and intentions documented. The police uncovered Rebecca's multi-state scam, and with Kevin's testimony, Mary's own words on tape, and Uncle Jim's documentation, it was case closed. Both women faced federal charges, elder abuse, fraud, conspiracy. Rebecca got probation, restitution, and a lifetime ban from HOAs. Mary, lawsuits, criminal charges, total social exile. And me, I got my life back. My uncle's name cleared in a community that had learned just how easily good people can be turned into weapons by those who know how to pull their strings. Sometimes justice takes its sweet time, but when it comes, let me tell you, it's beautiful. So, let me ask you, do you think there's ever any excuse for what Mary and Rebecca did, even if they thought they were protecting the neighborhood? Or does justice always mean the truth wins in the end? Drop your thoughts in the comments. If you've ever faced an HOA or a neighbor from hell, I want to hear your story. And, hey, hit like, subscribe, and stick around, because around here, karma always gets the last word.